The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday.
Oh, no, not already.
Yeah, the Friday after the debate.
Yep, well,
first debate.
Yep, before we go anywhere, I just received this from the governor moments ago. Baker-Polito administration releases Massachusetts proposal for the Amazon headquarters 2. Touting the Commonwealth's global initiative economy, world-class workforce, and leading higher educational institution, the Baker-Polito administration today released Massachusetts' statewide submission and proposal for hosting Amazon's second North American headquarters, or Amazon HQ2. The proposal, developed in consultation with Beacon Hill leadership, legislatures, municipal officials, and other key stakeholders in the Commonwealth business and academic communities, notes Massachusetts' global connections, diverse geographic communities, and regional strengths with potential campus sites. Now, listen carefully, people. Ranging from Boston and Worcester to Quincy, Pittsfield, Lawrence, and New Bedford. There's a city missing there, isn't there, Chip?
Yeah, conspicuously.
Conspicuously. I guess that relationship with the Baker-Polito administration is really paying off for Fall River. It's not even in consideration for Amazon HQ too. So, this is what we mean by, and I think this is what Councilor Pereira meant also when she said he has the ability to talk the good talk. He has grandiose dreams, but no
he also has the ability to basically kind of
bamboozle people?
Yeah, bamboozle, manipulate half-truths and facts. Again at the debate, and let me first say, I watched it.
I see the pin. You left the pin in your right eye.
It was difficult because I think it was one of the most poorer debates I've ever watched. You had, it was just the same old, same old. Nobody broke any new ground. The same old accusations, the same old, And I don't think, truthfully, in my opinion, I don't think, these debates. We know we've been doing this a long time. We know that a debate isn't going to change the mind of a supporter, regardless of what Jazel says. The Jazel supporters will continue to be Jazel supporters for the most part. The Linda supporters will continue to be Linda supporters. It's the people who are uncommitted that really, you want to appeal to them and help them make a decision in your favor. And I really don't think this debate changed anything because it's the same old thing. We heard the mayor talk about increasing school spending, net school spending, which we all know, and we've said it before, it's a semi-truth. Yeah, you did increase it. But as I said, it disappoints me that he was not asked to identify $1 that was put into enhancing the classroom setting in education.
And with that, we had, at the beginning of the school year, we had over 400 students that we did not account for, that were not in the budget, and now can't be added to the budget. And we're not getting reimbursement for. Plus, it's expected that we're going to get another influx of students that are coming from Puerto Rico because of the hurricane. So again, you're talking maybe 600-800 more students in our school system that we don't have the money allocated for.
Yeah.
I mean, is this going to be like with the police chief? Because, yes, I broke it yesterday that the mayor announced, well, he didn't announce yet. He's sending down to the city council the police chief's contract. He took acting chief Dupere. He's going to make him full-time police chief. with a swearing-in ceremony on October 29th at the police breakfast. But he said to credible sources within government center that, I don't care about the money. We'll find it somewhere. How many times have we heard that? How many times, we don't care about the money, we'll find it somewhere. Is that what we're going to do at the school department now, too?
Well, you know, the thing that, you're right, and it disturbs me because I think there was a comment saying that if they didn't approve it, the money, that he only have to approve the money, which isn't true. They have to approve the entire document, because if you look at 150, it talks about, it talks about it in depth. But what really gets me is process again. There seems to be no process when it suits the mayor. Did we have an interview with other candidates, potential candidates from within the department who were interested in the job? Did we have any kind of, it seems not to my knowledge anyway. He went in as acting chief, and I think that he's being made chief, which is okay. I mean, he may be a good guy. I really don't know him that well. But before they go through this dog and pony show of interviewing a whole bunch of candidates, to make it look like they've actually attempted to get the best
yeah, like
candidate.
they've done something.
And now they don't. But that's only the beginning. And and the ironic part, listen, he's working as the chief of the department, so he's getting paid like the chief of the department for when he works. He may not get his vacation pay and his holiday pay. That may be based on his salary, because if their collective bargaining agreement reads like ours, if you're acting on a grade, you get paid for when you work. You don't get paid you get paid based on your base pay for your holidays and vacations. So the only time he doesn't do it is when he's not actually being the chief. So he's not losing a lot of money. So, but what disturbs me is, why are we rushing to do this while we have every patrolman that's out on the street without a contract?
Because I might not get reelected.
They're in arbitration. Well, there you go. There's one of the considerations. Just in case he doesn't get elected, he wants to make sure he gets someone who he supports, and is the police chief. And look, that's politics. We all know it. But the fact is, what bothers me is how. I mean, you have to be totally insensitive to those guys who are out on a beat every day, who are out in the cars, the patrolmen that have been without a contract for about 3 years, that you forced through, a year or two of negotiations, then through mediation, and then you now are forcing them to arbitration over money. And from what I hear, we're not talking about big money, especially in the light that you gave 11% to EMS. You gave a $30,000 raise to somebody at EMS. You gave other people larger raises. We can go down the litany, which, by the way, breaks a cycle, because for years, if one union got 3% or 4%, all the unions got 3 or 4%. That's the reason that's what created stipends, because that was a way to get around the base pay, because everybody got the same increase. And he's broken that cycle, which, that's fine. But it's also dangerous, because then how do you pick and choose who deserves a bigger raise unless you actually do a study of comparative salaries throughout the state in cities of our size like you're supposed to? But what disturbs me about this whole process is you've got the majority of the police department hasn't had a pay raise in years. But all of a sudden, this is a big rush. It's a rush before the election. Why? What's the rush?
I remember a certain previous mayor who actually shared the same last name, Correa,
yeah,
who in the last days of his term started signing contracts all over the place. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And only one of those contracts was upheld. Only one.
That's right.
All the rest were thrown out the window.
Yeah. And, and you're right. But, I mean, this, being a guy that went without contracts for numerous times before we finally settled, and twice had to go through the arbitration route, which is a very long and tedious and cumbersome process. it disturbs me that, you know, it shows kind of a lack of priorities. To me, you know, you should be as even more interested in settling the contract for the police officers as you are for their leader. You know, the leader is already leading. He's there. He's acting chief. So what's the big deal? I mean, I think it's a bigger deal when you haven't settled a contract with the majority of the police department. I think that should take a priority if you really are looking at how you should prioritize, at least in my opinion, not your friends and you know, taking care of your friends.
But what's interesting is that he touts public safety all the time. He constantly is. Thanks a lot, Dave. Yeah, you're right. It does take a long time to give promotions. Well, a couple of our viewers.
Yeah, it does take a long time. Yeah. I've gone through the process, but there's.
But the thing is that he touts public safety all the time, but he does not give this contract to public safety officials. So the rank and file get the shaft again. Okay, bend over, baby. It's coming in dry. You know what I mean? And but again, the administration gets their money right off the top.
And remember one thing. This is not a civil service promotion. It's a contract.
That's right.
So you're not looking at a list running out, or there, you know. Or
oh, you mean like that sergeant promotion?
Exactly. And taking another promotional exam, it's a completely different aspect. And as I said, yeah, you know, you want to get a promotion. When you're on a civil service list, there obviously is a shelf life because there's a time when that list is going to expire. And that's why most civil service contracts have in the contract itself a time limit where the city has to call for a list when there's a vacancy that occurs. Civil service regulations also require that if an individual is in a permanent position, it's mandated that they have to be promoted, okay, once they work in that position for more than 30 days. So the fact is that there are all kinds of requirements about civil service promotions, and I can understand some consternation about somebody being, because I died on a captain's list. I was #1 on a captain's list. And I went 2 years and didn't get, because there were no vacancies, I went 2 years without getting promoted. I had to take the next captain's exam. So, but that's the way it is. It comes with the territory. And the thing is, this is a contract, chief, so it's, look, if the current acting chief was on a civil service list, was expiring, I'd be the first guy to say, okay, if he's going to be your selection, it's a contract chief, okay, we'll make him. But he's not on a civil service list. Because if he was on a civil service list, you are mandated to bring in the top 3 candidates and interview them. There is a process required by civil service. But with a contract chief, oh, I guess it's up to the mayor. We've had people that said they had, you know, they
Can you say Coogan?
And yeah, and look at what happened in a fire department when they promoted a lieutenant. And this is the reason that I always opposed contract chiefs, and this fire department went back to it because they saw what can happen. But look, this is nothing negative about the acting chief. I haven't heard anything negative about him. I'm just making an observation that he's being paid the salary, and if he isn't, he should file a grievance. But if he isn't being paid for being the chief when he works, he should be. But well, I think it's more important to pay the people in his department.
I agree. The rank and I always say this: the rank and file should be paid. Okay, before we start giving $30,000 raises to people who aren't doing anything. But I think one of the other major issues we have here, because again, and this is an allegation. This is what people in Government Center are telling me, that the mayor supposedly said that he's not worried about the money in the contract. He'll find it somewhere. And, that concerns me because he does this regularly. He's not concerned about the money. He'll find it somewhere. Even last night at the debate, He said, I've written my budget for 2019 already, and it doesn't have the purple bags in it. But how many fees did you increase to do that? The money's got to come from somewhere. The money has got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and I wonder if the maximum tax increase is in that 19 budget, how much the fees have gone up, if what we're going to pay for the bond on the pipes and on the debt exclusion for you know, I mean, it's just look again, it's you know, we talk about BS, that's BS.
And that's the problem, because I mean, you looked at it. I watched this last night. I mean, I was there. I watched it. Okay, and it's like the Herald News said, the gloves came off. Right off the bat, Linda slammed him hard. She slammed him hard. Okay, but it was a slamming without substance. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a good speech, a good opening statement. But like you said also, there was no substance to anything either one of them said yesterday. It was more like, you know, Johnny did it, so I did it, and Bobby did it, so I did it, and, you know, you're doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And people are going crazy. People are making comments. I mean, he's bringing up issues that are 22 years old, which she has apologized for tremendously. It took Will Richmond to turn around and say, okay, enough about the joke. I mean, that doesn't say a lot for these two people.
So they don't have a lot of bullets in their gun because they shoot at the other candidate because they're going over the same stuff. Just as, you know, I mean, she could have just as easily said, I don't even want that happened 22 years ago. We've already addressed it. I've been reelected, and let's talk about what's happening today at this minute with your investigation.
Exactly.
And, you know, and I don't think that would have been appropriate either. It's got nothing to do with the fact that, you know, okay, if he's under investigation,
he's under investigation.
He has a right to due process. And guess what? It's got nothing to do with his ability to do the mayor. It's just like if my auto mechanic was under FBI investigation, I don't care as long as he can fix my car. In that debate, I want to hear how they're going to actually do this. Not go over their accomplishments, which are really pseudo accomplishments, because when you look at everything he's claiming, he really didn't do almost anything he claimed he did, because net school spending, that's a smoke and mirrors. That's a pile. You know, increasing the fire departments, that's smoke and mirrors, because in 2015 budget, he voted to eliminate 11 positions that were funded by the city.
Which is something Linda should have said.
Well, yeah, well, you know, but that comes with, you know, the prep. But as I said, this is the problem. This debate to me was like, you know, more of the same. I didn't hear anything new. I didn't hear any revelations. And rather than sit back and go, like you said, he said, she said, Johnny stole a cookie, no. Linda stole a cookie, no. Jaisal stole a cookie. Oh, I did this, I did that. We've already heard. We've done it on this show already way too many times, trying to remind the people that net school spending has not been increased effectively. You know, moving police salaries and healthcare monies over is not affecting the quality of education. You don't see any paraprofessionals being put in a classroom. You don't see.
And he's touting that he made classroom sizes smaller, but they're larger.
Yeah, of course.
Especially with this influx of students that we weren't prepared for.
And as you said, there's no money for these people.
Right.
And so, look, forget about it. But why didn't they just come up and come out, or even on their websites, come out with a comprehensive plan? Let me see a comprehensive plan to do something. You know, we heard, look, stop with the purple bags. Jeez, come on. Last year he said the purple bags were not going to be in a budget.
And he didn't do it.
And he didn't do it. So this year it's not in his budget. And, okay, is he going to do it? Maybe. But everybody forgets that he's on record at the council meeting. He voted for purple bags, and he said more than once, he has always been in favor of purple bags. So now you're going to eliminate purple bags because it's an election year. And you got elected because you eliminated a fee. But you forgot to say that we increased taxes, all kinds of fees. So people are paying more than they did when they had the trash fee. So we're going to eliminate the purple bags, and we've said at the time it creates a hole in the budget. We want to see how that hole is going to get plugged, not with taxes and fees. I want to see how you freed up money.
It's definitely not going to be from pay cuts, because this one doesn't know about
Oh,
pay
no,
cuts.
there's no pay cuts. Everybody got a nice, and, when we get back to that about the rank and file and stuff, this is the reason, not only here, but in the entire United States, they continue to tell everybody that the businesses and the wealthy are getting far, far richer, and the poor have not seen any appreciable increase in their income. When you look at the people who work in this country, they're scraping. They're not getting anything, but the top is getting everything because of they outsource, they do other things, they make they're going to replace people with robots and whatever. But the reality is the numbers don't lie. The numbers say that the upper echelon of taxpayer is getting wealthier and wealthier, and they're making more and more money. Their salaries are getting larger. Like, who gets a $6 million raise except a pharmaceutical CEO? Who makes $32.8 million except a pharmaceutical CEO? But the people that work sorting those pharmaceuticals are making barely above minimum wage. So when we look at that comparison, the working person to the administrators, we see there's a disparity there. And how can we do that to our public safety people? How can you allow our police officers to be held hostage for this long while everybody else is settled? If you can find the money for the police chief's contract, find the money to settle the police contract. It's that simple.
I agree. I mean, let's go over. We've only got about 8 minutes left in the show. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Let's go over a couple of things that were said. The mayor constantly touted himself as being positive and only talking positivity about the city and about his campaign. Yet he was the first one to, he was one of the first ones at previous statements and previous debates to throw the negative connotations, to make the negative statements. Everything about his opponent was negative. Now, don't get me wrong. The opposite side of the aisle was the same way. But don't go around saying you're touting positivity when you're being just as negative as the opposition. Then he touts, that he obtained a $750,000 grant to secure 81 jobs by a local manufacturer. He didn't secure that grant. And this is the thing that gets me. I secured the grant for the Housing Authority. No, the Housing Authority secured the grant.
I got the fire trucks.
I got the fire trucks. No, CDA got the fire trucks. Okay? It gets to the point where you have to say, is this really worth my aggravation? Yeah. But let's look at this, because he did this during one of his statements. $750,000, okay, for 81 jobs. That is $9,259.25 for each job. Is that a good almost $10,000 to create one job? Is that a good investment in money? Is that a good return on the investment? I don't know. And remember, that was for sewing machine operators. Not that they're not good jobs, don't get me wrong, but they're an industry that's not going to survive long term in Fall River. We know this.
Yeah, but he said, look, we're going to bring it back. No, we're not going to bring it back. We're not going to bring it back to any degree, because the bottom line is they will find a way to make it cheaper, and they're not going to make it cheaper. And if we do make it, the only way it will remain in Fall River or the United States is if we repeal all the protections against child labor and minimum wages and begin to chain them to the machines again,
right? Like
they do in Bangladesh and like they do in these third world countries, that they get a nickel a day. And what gets me about, he talked about, well, he called her a hypocrite, but then he called it a trick question, talking about gun assaults and stuff and quality of life. He tries to imply that if we wish the quality of life was good, that this doesn't matter. Well, you ask anybody who's walking the streets, maybe because he spends most of his time in Providence, that he doesn't realize that the elderly are afraid to walk on the streets in front of their high-rises. People are afraid in this community now. This community has a problem, and I'm not
And that's
saying
not a quality of life.
And all I'm saying is it affects the quality of life. So let's at least acknowledge it. I'm not saying, you ought to blame, but you ought to blame when you refuse to acknowledge it. You try to spin it, and say it doesn't exist. That sounds like Eddie Lambert years ago saying we didn't have a gang problem in Fall River. Yeah, when they had people walking around Durfee with gang colors every day and gang problems all over the city. But he said, oh, we don't have a... If we deny it, that's the ostrich approach to reality.
Well,
Stick your head in the sand.
At least he acknowledged the fact that he has a problem with the police department in a roundabout way. Because he says, you just asked the school department, you asked the fire department how well I did for them. He didn't say ask the police department, did
he did real well.
Yeah, he did real well.
He did real well.
Yeah. But
they got jobs in the housing authority and everything. So.
Exactly. So, know that, you're looking at these things from rose-colored glasses sometimes, and you've got to take the glasses off and say, oh, wait a minute, there's some shocking stuff here. This is scary. Now, he touted trash, of course, as we said earlier. No debate would be complete without talking trash in Fall River. And I'm not talking about the candidates towards each other.
Yeah.
Okay? So again, he came out with, I've already got the plan to get rid of the purple bags. That is a political promise. If he gets rid of them, if he's reelected, congratulations. But if he gets rid of them and he takes that $3 million and kicks on other fees, that's on your fault for reelecting him.
Yeah.
And understand this. You got rid of a $120 a month fee. But I can tell you as a property owner, because that would have been $360 a month on my property. I can tell you clearly and with absolute certainty that I have paid more than $360 a month in taxes and fees.
Well, if you had a single family, you got $120, and there are some people who have gotten a larger raise than that quarterly in their water bills.
Exactly.
My
water bill almost doubled. So,
but let me say something about this negativity positivity, because this always disturbs me. Negative is when you insult her personally or call her something, or she calls him something in a derogatory manner. The politicians love to spin everything. And anything that is against their position, they try to brand as negative. But believe me, the truth is not negativity. It's just the truth. And the truth doesn't fear investigation. To say you're negative when you point out that the increase in net school spending was not actually a positive increase in net school spending, because it had nothing to do with the educational system. It had to do with money shifting. It's just like saying, and they're great at that, government's great at that. It was like when they went in front of the public and said how much money they were going to save on health care by going to this new plan modeling plan. They were saving money. You as a taxpayer aren't saving money. All they did was shift the co-pays to the employees and take more out of their pocket. So it cost the city $3 million less a year for their health care. Why? Because the $3 million didn't disappear. They didn't get cheaper health care because they renegotiated different fees. They got it because they took $3 million out of the employees' and retirees' pockets. What happened to that $3 million?
The money's got to come from somewhere.
What happened to that? In 4 years they reported, and I have the numbers, they reported they made $12 million, over $12 million. What happened to that $12 million? Where did it go in the budget? Where's the disclosure? What did you do with that? It got absorbed somewhere.
Definitely.
And this is one of the problems. So that's not negativity, that's a fact, because we can prove it. And when somebody points out that, when you get a political half-truth, that it's only a half-truth, that's not being negative, that's just being factual. And, we hear a lot about fake news, but, unfortunately, political campaigns are basically the bastion of fake news.
That's for sure. Hey, It's the weekend. Remember, stay angry, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, people.